absorption phase, the alcohol is being absorbed through the gastrointestinal tract and enters the blood. At that time, the vitreous humor, which is the fluid in the eyeball, is lower than the amount of alcohol in the blood. In this case, it was higher, which indicates it was in the metabolic phase.
And does that indicate to you that she was coming up?
Sorry, going down.
Going down. Is there any way to tell what her alcohol level would have been at approximately 1 o'clock that morning?
I need to know the time of death, roughly.
Okay, and if the time of death was approximately 4:40?
Yes, I could calculate that.
Okay, and what would that be?
It would be between 0.28 and 0.29.
Is there a rate at which the human body eliminates alcohol?
There is a rate. Rises at 18 milligrams per deciliter per hour.
And is that the rate that's used to calculate then, theoretically going back, what it would have been?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In addition to alcohol being in her system, you indicated that she was positive for marijuana.
That's correct.
Is there any way to quantify how much marijuana was in her system?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And how much marijuana was in her system?
The active ingredient, she had 9.2 mgs per mil, and the inactive.
And what does that mean?
It means that she had recently smoked marijuana.
Any way to tell how recently she had smoked marijuana?
I couldn't tell you that.
In terms of a body being shot full in the face with a shotgun, is there anything you can tell us about in terms of if that body would move or how far that body would move upon impact? Okay, and why is that?
I don't think enough research has been done out there to make a proper determination.
Okay. In this particular case, how quickly after the impact to the face by the shotgun would death have occurred?
Immediately.
Any way that Ms. McBride would have been saved in the event that EMS would have been at the scene?
There was no chance she would have been saved.
And were you able to determine a cause of death?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the cause?
Shotgun wound to head.
And the manner of death?
As a homicide.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Dr. Kesha, in your autopsy, you indicated that the wound track was from front to back and from left to right.
Right to left, I believe.
Thank you for correcting me, right to left.
Yes.
The wound in terms of an angle.
Meaning vertical deviation?
Yes.
I couldn't determine a significant vertical deviation.
Okay, so what, if anything, does that tell us?
She would have most likely been shot head straight on.
Straight on. And you've indicated that this photograph or this sketch is done when the body is in the anatomical position?
Standard anatomical position, yes.
And what does that mean?
It's a frame of reference doctors use. It's when the person is standing straight up, arms down the side and palms facing forward, and the head is looking straight ahead.
And of either upward, downward, or anything like that?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I have nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Doctor, you stated on direct exam that it's difficult to form an opinion in a vacuum. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what I took that to mean is that you rely on police officers to collect evidence and give it to you, right?
That's correct.
Do you rely on anybody else to collect evidence so you can look at it to make... giving you the evidence
Meaning the body?
and the clothes,
The,
things
body,
like
the
that.
body came with the clothes on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But what do you mean you can't form an opinion in a vacuum then?
Sometimes it's difficult to form an opinion. For example, if between a suicide and a homicide, it may be difficult to tell the difference without scene information.
Okay. So in this case, scene information is important, correct? Have you ever had a chance to look at the screen frame and the screen that was inside the frame?
Yes.
You did look at that?
I looked at pictures of it.
All right. Why did you do that if that's not important to look at?
I just wanted to have a look at the scene, see if there was any. The screen door was part of the picture that I saw of the building.
All right. You could have looked at it in person, correct? You could have asked the police officer to allow you to look at it.
Yes, I could.
All right, and you didn't do that, did you?
I didn't think it was.
Okay. You did testify on direct exam, though, with the prosecutor about the screen and how that could sometimes filter out soot, correct?
That's correct.
And sometimes the screen could filter out the stippling, correct?
Unburned gunpowder, yes.
So it would be important to look at the screen to see if you see any of the soot, correct?
It wouldn't change my opinion or my autopsy report in any way.
Okay. So it's not important to look at the screen in making your determination?
Not in this case, no.
Have you had a chance to examine the
Ammunition?
No, the actual shotgun itself.
I never looked at it.
Okay. Did you look at the ammunition that was used inside the shotgun?
I looked at the projectiles recovered from the body.
All right. You stated, and those are called pellets, correct?
There was pellets and a plastic wad cup.
All right. And ammunition with handguns and shotguns are different, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And in this case, with the shotgun, do you know the three types of, tell us what they are?
Buckshot, birdshot, and a slugs.
Okay. In this case involved buckshot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hesitate?
I did, because the projectiles were grossly deformed. And I'm not a expert witness in the area of ballistics, so my opinion was that they were buckshots.
Doesn't sound that you're 100% sure, though, are you?
Like I said, I'm not an expert in ballistics.
Okay. For buckshot.
I'm not 100% sure.
Do you know that the law enforcement collected some of the shells from Mr. Wafer's house?
I don't have that scene information.
Okay. Is that something you could have gotten to look at?
If I needed to, yes.
Okay. And then if you had collected and looked at the evidence, you could have seen if it was, in fact, buckshot, correct?
Maybe.
Okay. Instead, you decided that wasn't important.
It wouldn't have changed my opinion or the autopsy.
All right. Now, it's really important as the medical examiner you can, correct?
Yes.
Because after you're done doing the autopsy, the body is usually buried, right?
I believe so.
And you're the last chance to get all the evidence and take all the photographs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In this case, how many pellets did you recover from Miss McBride?
Between 10 and 20.
Do you have a definite answer?
No, ma'am.
That's not written down anywhere in your report?
No, ma'am. I just use multiple.
You just use multiple?
Yeah, I just use the word multiple. I don't give an exact number.
So instead of counting how many pellets you decided just to estimate between 10 and 20?
Can you rephrase the question?
Instead of counting how many pellets were recovered inside of Miss McBride and putting that in your report, you just did an estimate of 10 to 20.
I didn't put an estimate in my report. I just said multiple.
How is there any way for any of us to know now how many pellets were recovered?
I did take photographs.
All right. Would it refresh your memory if you looked at a photograph to see how many pellets there were?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach, Your Honor? Dr. Keisha, I'm handing you 2 photographs. Can you look at them?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yeah, these are the photographs I took of the foreign body recovered from the brain.
Okay. Does that help you recall how many pellets you recovered during your autopsy?
Yes, ma'am.
How many pellets did you
It
recover?
appears to be between 11 to 14.
Okay, so you can't even tell from that picture if it's 11, 12, 13. Okay. And you had the opportunity to pull them apart, didn't you?
Absolutely.
No?
Absolutely.
And you didn't do that?
No.
And are you aware of how many pellets are usually in a buckshot?
I think it ranges between 8 and 41.
Right. And would it be important, if you knew a type of shell and what type of buckshot was used, would you have known how many pellets should have been inside that?
No.
Okay. And are you sure that you recovered all of the pellets out of Miss McBride?
I recovered all the pellets after a thorough examination.
For a certainty today that you recovered all the pellets from Miss McBride?
No.
Okay. And would it be suspicious if a buckshot is supposed to have 27 pellets and you only have 11 to 14, would that be important for you to know?
No.
Why not?
Due to the size of the wound, the pellets could have fallen out. Some of the pellets, as you can see, the pellets were grossly deformed. Some of them could have been obliterated, and it would be impossible to recover those projectiles.
Also, while you're looking at that's depicted, is that it's the white material, correct?
Yes, it's a plastic wad cup.
Okay, can you explain to the judge what is a plastic wad cup?
The plastic wad cup is the cup that holds the pellets and the filler.
Right. And is that discharged from a shotgun?
Yeah, that's expelled from the shotgun along with the pellets.
All right. How far does wadding usually go when discharged from a shotgun?
It can go as far as 50 feet.
All right. And where did you find the wadding
Material.
Okay. And how many pieces of wadding did you find?
It looks like 3 pieces.
I'd like to go back, Doctor, about not looking at everything in the vacuum and that you need all the information you can get. Did you know that Miss McBride was involved in a car accident on the night of her death?
After the fact, yes.
Okay. When did you find out that she was involved in a car accident?
I can't recall, but it was after the autopsy was completed.
Okay. Would that have been important information for you to have known before you had done your autopsy?
No, ma'am. Because with a thorough autopsy examination, I would have picked up any injuries that was caused.
Okay. Did you ever look at photographs of Miss McBride's car after she crashed it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you see, when you were doing the autopsy on Miss McBride, did she have any seatbelt markings on her?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What does that indicate? If she was in a car accident and there's no seatbelt markings...
2 things. One is that she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. 2 is that she was wearing a seatbelt, but the impact significant.
Okay, so the crash wasn't hard enough to cause a bruise from the seatbelt. It could mean that. Or she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, correct?
That's correct.
Would it have been significant if on the windshield of the car Ms. McBride was driving had a big shattered area on it?
Can you repeat the question?
Would it have been important to you when you were doing the autopsy to know that the windshield after the car accident had a big shatter in the center of it?
No.
Would you find out when you're doing an autopsy if a decedent has had a concussion?
No, ma'am.
Can you check during an autopsy if a decedent had brain injury?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Could you check a brain to see for the brain injury after a car accident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you do it in this case?
I examined the brain, but as I told you, it was pulpified, so the injuries may have masked any injuries occurring before the incident.
Okay. Did you find any evidence of a brain injury in Ms. McBride?
Except for the one.
Would have been there, just masked by the shotgun wound.
That's correct.
Doctor, are you aware of what a brain injury, how that manifests itself in a person? Does that change their demeanor in any way?
Yes, it does.
Okay, can you explain how a brain injury would change a person's demeanor?
Sometimes people suffer from post-concussion syndrome. Other times, if there's significant brain injuries, they may be acting differently than they normally would.
Okay. For example, you said that somebody get more aggressive after a brain injury.
That's possible.
Could a person be very disoriented after a brain injury?
That's also possible.
Could a person be incoherent after a brain injury?
Yes, ma'am.
And also, could a person be confused after a brain injury?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want to add that onto the toxicology results in this case. All right, because you just testified that Ms. McBride had a blood alcohol level of, was it
0.218.
Okay. And how many times above the legal limit is that?
That's equivalent to 0.08, so it's equivalent to 3.5 times.
Okay. Okay. And that was at the time of her death, correct?
That's correct.
And you testified earlier at the time of the car accident, her blood alcohol level was about 0.28?
It could have been as high as 0.28.
Okay. When a person has a blood alcohol level of 0.28, can you tell us what kind of demeanor and changes the body goes through?
Okay, it's very difficult. There are many factors to play. For example, I have a twin similar genetic profile. I seldom drink. So after 2 drinks, you're able to notice. However, my brother who drinks on a regular basis, after 2 drinks, you won't tell. So it depends on the person's genetic profile. It depends on if they drink on a regular basis. Generally, between the levels of 0.2 to 0.3, they have unsteady gait and they're confused, and sometimes they're talking irrationally.
Blood alcohol level for a person to become comatose?
They usually pass out or go to sleep at 0.3. Between 0.3 and 0.4, they become comatose, and death can usually occur at 0.4.
And you stated on direct exam also that Ms. McBride had marijuana in her system, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you gave us some numbers and said that that meant that. Is there any way to tell how long ago Ms. McBride had smoked marijuana?
I can't give you that information.
On the toxicology results, do they give you a reference frame?
Yes, they do.
All right. And and that's part of the exhibit, correct?
That's correct.
I'll draw your attention to that. I think it's proposed exhibit 3. on the detailed findings and the reference comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that one?
Yes, ma'am.
One?
Yes, ma'am.
You tested two different types for marijuana. Well, can you explain to us how there is a delta-9 THC and then a delta-9 carboxy THC? What's the difference?
Sure. Delta-9 THC is the active ingredient. When you smoke marijuana, that's the first thing to appear in your system. After it goes under a certain degree of metabolism, it becomes inactive, which is the carboxy component.
Okay. So Ms. McBride had the active ingredient for marijuana. That result was 9.2, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then if you look at the reference comments 3, the second paragraph under 3, it talks about the concentrations of this active ingredient in marijuana, and it states about how many hours it takes for somebody's levels to decrease, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So does that mean that after 2 hours of smoking, a person's active THC is going to be less than 5 per milliliter?
According to the reference they used, yes.
Okay. So after 2 hours of smoking marijuana, a person's active ingredient should be less than 5 milligrams per milliliter.
Can be less than 5.
Okay. Since Ms. McBride's was 9.2, would that be evidence that she had smoked marijuana within the past 2 hours since her level wasn't as low?
No, ma'am.
And why is that?
Again, it depends on your genetic profile. Depends if she smokes marijuana on a regular basis. A user will have the active component for a longer period of time than the non-chronic user. Also, it depends on her body mass. The fat cells actually absorb the marijuana and then it secretes it slowly as time goes on. So there are a lot of variables involved.
Okay. But doctor, there's no doubt in your mind that Ms. McBride was under the influence of active marijuana?
Yes.
And that Ms. McBride was under the influence of a very high alcohol level too?
Yes, ma'am.
And those were both at the time of her death, correct?
That's correct.
And she could have also been suffering from a brain injury, correct?
That's correct.
Doctor, you stated that you found blood on Ms. McBride's hands, correct?
That's correct.
Did you take any pictures of the blood that you found on Ms. McBride's hands?
No, we clean the body before we take the photographs.
Why didn't you take pictures before you clean the body?
They take the photographs after the blood is removed, so because people find that blood is too discriminatory at trial, so they want clean photographs.
But isn't it important if somebody else reviews your work or somebody else needs to get evidence, since you're the last one to see Ms. McBride, it is the safe and the best route to take photographs at all stages of the autopsy?
Not necessary.
We will never have a chance to see what Ms. McBride's hands with the blood look like before you...
In terms of photographs, there are scene photographs that represent that. So I don't believe that this witness is able to answer that fairly.
Your Honor, I believe you can. I think you just did.
What was the question again?
There's no way for the defense to find out, or anybody to know what during the autopsy, before you wash the body, what the blood looked like, the blood patterns on her hands look like.
You can answer the question.
Not through me, no.
Okay. Could you describe to us, since we don't have photographs and we'll never be able to see, can you describe to us what did the blood look like on Ms. McBride? All right. And did she have any blood on the back of her hands?
I can't recall.
So we will never know, since you didn't take a photograph and you can't recall, we won't know if she had blood on the outside of her hands?
Not through me.
And you said one hand had significantly more blood than the other.
That's correct.
Which hand had significantly more blood?
The right hand.
Okay. And when you say significantly more blood, what do you mean? Like
Meaning-
twice as much, 3 times as much?
Meaning that I'd have to clean the hand to observe any injuries underneath.
Okay. Did you use a microscope?
No, ma'am.
Did you use any magnifying lens to look at her hands?
No, ma'am.
Okay. How close do you actually look at the hands with your naked eye?
Within 6 inches to a foot.
Okay. And I see that you wear glasses.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you wear your glasses during the autopsies?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And it's your testimony that you didn't see any scrapes on Miss McBride's hands?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't see any abrasions on Miss McBride's hands?
Didn't see any abrasions.
Did you see any swelling on Miss McBride's hands?
No, ma'am.
Doctor, as part of an autopsy when there's a gunshot wound, do you always make an opinion on if it's close range or not close range?
Yes, ma'am.
And why is that?
It's part of our protocol.
Right. And be 4 different distances. There's contact, there's near contact, there's intermediate, and there's distant firing.
Some people have classified it that way.
Okay, how do you classify
I
it?
classify it as contact, close range, and where you can't tell.
Okay. So if it's not close range, you can't tell how far it is?
That's true.
Okay. And for close range, did you testify, in your opinion, it's 3 feet or less? Is that right?
For a shotgun wound, it's usually with up to 2 feet.
Okay. There's a lot of ways you can determine, with your knowledge and expertise, how close a gun was shot to the decedent, correct? There's a lot of ways, a lot of factors you use to determine how close a shot. So you testified there's suit.
That's correct.
You can look for that. You can look for stippling.
That's correct.
You can also look at the characteristics of the wound itself.
The characteristics of the wound itself does not, or is not one of the criteria for close range.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, just from the appearance of the wound, I cannot tell you if that's close range or not. Close range is based on soot and stippling alone.
So it's your opinion that close range calculations cannot be made by looking at the wound?
I can give you the firearm from the appearance of the wound, yes, but I cannot comment on the range of fire from the appearance of the wound.
But you could tell how close the parties were in contact with each other?
I can give you a range.
Okay. In part, when you're looking at the wound with gunshots, get the, right here. Doctor, the exhibit, the drawing you did, and the area on Miss McBride, that was the shotgun wound, correct?
That's correct.
And you have the shotgun wound all the way from the left eye all the way down to the bridge of the nose, kind of almost on the top of the whole mouth, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever stitch up this wound?
No,
Why not?
it's not our protocol.
Do you know, would you agree that protocol and standards to look at a gunshot wound, require somebody to stitch the wound back up?
No, you can reapproximate the wound without stitching it. Some institutions use super glue, so you don't need to stitch the wound.
Did you use super glue in this case?
No, ma'am, it just reapproximated.
And what do you mean by reapproximating?
Meaning I put the wound together physically.
Why didn't you go the extra step and either use super glue or stitch it up?
I didn't believe it was necessary.
Okay. And a lot of times when you stitch a wound back up, isn't it true that you can see where the actual shotgun wound is?
You can see that with reapproximation as well.
Shotgun wound, after you stitch it up, you'll notice that the whole area isn't the wound. It could be the tearing from where the entrance was, correct?
That's correct.
In this case, did Miss McBride have any tearing? Any of this that you shaded, was any of this tearing?
Yes, ma'am.
But you didn't testify on direct about that. You said the whole area was a shotgun wound.
There were minor tears. I did give the dimension of the wound itself in the report.
Correct, but how do we know based on this what part was tearing and what part was the wound? We can tell?
No, ma'am.
Why didn't you make one?
We don't usually put tearing on our diagrams.
Tearing is so important.
Only with contact.
So it's your opinion, only if it was contact, near contact, then you stitch it up and that's important. Other than that, it's not?
No, I still wouldn't stitch it up.
Okay. Are you under any, well, you work for Wayne County, correct?
That's correct.
And you work in Wayne County's medical examiner's office, correct?
That's correct.
And I would assume that the staff there...
Office, yes.
Okay. Is there a lot of pressure to get the autopsies done and completed for the prosecutor's office?
No, ma'am. We can adjourn the cases if we feel that we couldn't do an adequate job for the following day and continue the cases then.
Okay. But it sounds like it's your decision when you're doing the autopsy what extra steps to take and what not to take.
Yes.
Now, doctor, I'd like to talk about the soot on a person's skin.
Depending on the type of soot used, black, gray, or even white.
Okay. So you think the soot can be white?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you know for sure or no? Do you believe so?
I've seen it as appears it is a slightly off-white color.
Okay. And gunpowder, what color is that when it's on a person's skin?
I'm sorry, I'm mixing up gunpowder from soot. Soot is black. Gunpowder can be black, gray, and it can also be off.
You stated, in your opinion in summary, that there was no evidence of close range.
That's correct.
Can you tell us the reasons? You said there was no soot and no stippling. Are those the only two reasons?
That's correct.
Okay. Just 1 minute, Your Honor. Yes. May I approach, Your Honor? Now, Doctor, I'm handing you a... And can you tell us what that is a picture of?
That's the picture of the decedent's face.
All right. And on that picture, do you see white little dots on her face?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what are those?
That's fuller.
Pardon me?
Fuller?
Fuller?
Yeah, it's mixed in with the pellets to prevent the pellets from hitting each other as it's being expelled from the weapon.
Okay, and it's also called buffer, correct? Pardon me?
Is there an extra picture of that?
Yeah. Oopsie.
Are you moving for admission?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know that.
Excuse me, yeah. I'm going to trip myself on these cords. Doctor, so you said the white particles on Miss McBride's face are the buffering agent from the shotgun shell,
That's correct.
correct? Isn't that another way to determine if something is close range?
That's not used in the criteria of close range.
Okay. So you don't use the evidence of white
The
firing?
white buffering agent can be deposited on the pellets. So the pellets can be within the wound up to a certain amount of feet. It could be, the fuller can accompany the pellets, so it's not considered part of close range.
And also the wadding, those two pieces of the plastic white wadding that was inside of Miss McBride's brain, saying that, usually, you said they can travel up to 50 feet?
It has been reported up to 50 feet. Shotgun wound up to 5 to 8 feet.
Oh, okay. So for you, finding the wadding in Miss McBride's face isn't evidence of close range firing?
It's not part of the criteria of close range discharge.
What criteria are you using?
I'm using the soot and stippling.
Is there a national guidelines? Is there guidelines for medical examiners?
I believe so.
Do you know the name of these guidelines?
I can't recall them right now.
Okay, so you don't even know the name or where to find these guidelines that you've been using?
I believe they are published.
Okay, but you don't, do you know the author?
I can't recall the.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Kasha, do you have any way of knowing how Renisha McBride would react when she was drunk?
I have no, because I wasn't there.
And what about how Renisha would act if she was high on marijuana?
Again, I wasn't there. I wouldn't know how she would react.
You told us that the injuries that were caused to Ms. McBride's face from the shotgun wound, not a gunshot wound, from a shotgun wound, were significant.
Yes, ma'am.
If she had bumped her head on this windshield of her vehicle and she had suffered perhaps a broken nose or a bruised forehead, would you have been able to see that?
The wounds would have masked those injuries.
Because the shotgun wounds were so severe, it would cover any evidence of injury that she would have suffered.
That's correct.
Is it fair of her hands or therefore anywhere else on her body?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
So if there would have been blood at the scene of the car accident, it would have had to have come from someplace that the injury from the shotgun would be masked.
That's correct.
In this particular case, I believe you told us that her brain was
Pulpified.
pulpified. What does that mean?
It means that the injuries are so severe that I couldn't even reconstruct the brain.
And those would have been injuries from the shotgun blast.
That's correct.
Was her consumption of alcohol or marijuana at all contributory toward her cause or manner of death?
Objection, Your Honor. I'll withdraw.
Thank you. You indicated that there are certain things that can affect the level of marijuana within her system.
That's correct.
Some of those factors you indicated were how frequently she would smoke marijuana,
That's correct.
her genetic makeup.
That's correct.
Is there any way of knowing how soon before she died she consumed marijuana?
No, ma'am.
You indicated that you did not once it came to the morgue before it was cleaned up.
That's correct.
And you indicated that it's a policy of the medical examiner's office to do it that way?
It's the medical examiner's discretion. We're not required to take photographs as the body comes into the morgue.
Okay. But the morgue does in fact take photographs?
take ID photographs for identification for family.
Okay.
That's before we clean the body.
Okay. And then after the body is cleaned, photographs are taken.
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated that something about the bloody photographs are inflammatory?
That's correct.
If there were photographs that were taken of Ms. McBride's scene, where she laid after she had been shot, would those show the injuries to her body?
It may show the injuries to her body.
And would that show the blood on her hands?
That may show the blood on her hands.
You indicated that you did not stitch or glue this wound back together, is that right?
That's correct.
And you indicated that that was because a reapproximation is a trick in this case.
That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that the stitching, like to stitch.
Okay. And when you say modify the wound, what do you mean?
During the stitching process, I've got to punch holes into the skin. I may tear some of the skin while I'm doing that. So for that reason, I don't stitch.
Stitching it back together can actually cause more injury to the face. That's not part of the actual injury from the shotgun.
That's correct.
Can you tell us what the dimensions of the wound were on Ms. McBride's face?
Yes, 3.5 by 2 inches.
And in this particular case, you were, in fact, defense counsel showed you a photograph of the wound. Is that right? After the reapproximation.
No, ma'am.
The photographs, were there photographs taken of the injuries of Ms. McBride?
Yes, ma'am.
And the photographs, particularly to her face, and the one that defense counsel showed you, what is that of?
That's the photo of the face cleaned up.
And just as it appeared to you when it came after it was cleaned?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you indicated that in terms of close-range firing, you were using the presence or lack of presence of soot or stippling.
That's correct.
Are those arbitrary close range?
No, ma'am. That's the criteria all medical examiners use.
And did you learn that during your training
Yes, ma'am.
and your education?
Yes, ma'am.
You indicated that a person could become aggressive, disoriented, incoherent, or confused if having suffered a traumatic brain injury.
That's correct.
Couldn't they also be quiet, withdrawn, and huddling to themselves?
Absolutely.
Likewise, after the person is intoxicated, there are a number of ways. And what about with marijuana?
Same ways. People act differently under the influence.
In terms of whether or not alcohol or marijuana contributed to your cause and manner of death in this case. I don't believe I got an answer to that question.
It didn't contribute.
Thank you. Thank you. I have nothing further. Thank you.
So, doctor, the reconstruction you did of the wound, you didn't take any photographs of.
No, ma'am.
So there's no way for any of us to see that.
No, ma'am.
With the cleaning, what body?
Just water.
Okay. And what do you use? A rag?
Yes, ma'am.
And would it be fair to say that when you clean the body, you can also take off soot and stippling?
You cannot remove stippling. It's a injury caused on the decedent. You can wash off soot. However, I inspect the wound before it is cleaned to examine any soot.
I'm sorry, to examine any what?
Before I wash the decedent, I examine the wound to exclude or preclude any evidence of soot.
Okay. But there's no way for any of us to look.
That's correct.
Nothing further, John.
Okay, you may step down.
Thank you, sir.
Hold on, witness.
Good. Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please speak clearly, loudly into that silver microphone, okay?
Judge, if you don't mind, can I just stay at the table, or do you want me at the podium?
It's up to you.
It's just easier for all my
Whatever you feel most comfortable with.
stuff. Thank you. Good morning. Could you tell us your name, please?
Carmen Beasley.
And Ms. Beasley, back
On Bramall?
is that the city of Detroit?
Yes.
And did you own a vehicle back on that day?
Yes.
What kind of a vehicle did you own?
Black Dodge Charger?
And did something happen to your vehicle back on November 2nd, 2013?
Yes.
What happened?
It was hit while it was on the street.
When the accident actually happened, did you physically see it?
No, I did not.
Okay, tell us what it is that drew your attention.
Well, while I was inside of my home, I heard a very loud noise.
When you
So-
when you heard that noise, what did you do?
I just immediately grabbed the phone. I knew if something had happened. I didn't know exactly what happened. Looked outside.
Were you awake at that time of the evening?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall approximately what time it was?
Around 1 o'clock a.m.
Okay. And you indicated that you called 911.
Yes,
Okay. And did you speak with the 911 operator?
I did.
And do you recall what you said to the 911 operator?
Yes, vaguely. I know I did say there's been an accident. I don't know as far as like who all was involved or anything, because at that point I hadn't even went outside
Okay.
to assess the situation.
When you're on the phone with 911, can you look at 911 what you're seeing outside?
Yes.
At this time, I'd move for the admission of people's proposed exhibit number 6.
Ms. Carpenter.
No objection, Your Honor. That is
This is the first 911 call that she made.
thank you.
I'm going to play it, have you listen to it, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about it, okay?
Okay.
Saturday, 11/2/2013 at
Detroit emergency 911, where's your problem?
7233 Blammo. Somebody just ran into my car out on the street and in my driveway.
Okay, give me the address, 7233.
Blammo.
Is that between Westbourne and Majestic?
Yes, it's on Blammo.
Is that a single home?
Yes.
Okay, now what happened?
I just looked outside. I heard a loud boom, and somebody has ran into the girls are getting out the car, walking across the street, but their cars in my on the street and into the back of my car in my driveway.
But they're still out there, right?
I see somebody walking from the car going across the street. They're leaving walking on one. They left the car in the driveway.
Okay, but no one's hurt?
No, I mean, she looked like she heard going away, but the car is still in my driveway and everything.
Okay, how many people jumped out of it?
From what I can see, one.
And it was a black female?
Yes.
Okay. I request the police to location for you, ma'am.
Right now.
Okay, well, she comes back and you see her out there, you can tell her that you need to wait for police. If not, they're going to get the VIN number anyway and find out who owns the vehicle, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Ms. Beasley, do you recognize your voice on that call?
Yes.
Is that you speaking with the 911 operator?
Yes.
Now, after you hang up the phone with 911, what happened?
After I hung up the phone with 911, I watched, because I wanted to assess the situation before I went out. I watched get my husband and put my shoes on and to go outside.
When you went outside, was the lone female occupant, was she there at the scene?
She had came back, but at that point when I got ready to walk back out the house, my neighbor was at my door getting ready to knock on my door, but she had walked away again. So she walked away like holding her head, like just holding her head, walking away, not running away or anything, but she walked through an alley.
May I approach the witness? I'm going to start with people's proposed exhibit number 5. Ms. Beasley, do you recognize this as being Bramall Street and West Outer Drive?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that the lone female occupant of the vehicle walked down the alley. Is that
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Does this picture show... Get out of here. Actually, you know, can we put... I move for the admission of people's exhibit 5.
No objection, Your Honor. So moved.
Okay. Tell us what we're looking at here, ma'am.
Well,
What is this street right here? This street right here, is that...
Warren.
That's... okay. And this street here, is that Ramel?
that's Bramall.
Okay. Can you see where your house is on this, in this photograph?
Yes.
Okay, which house is yours?
The second from the right, the second from the left. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it would be this white house?
Yes.
Okay. That's this one here?
No.
Here, I'm going to give it to you. You show her. Make it go on easier. It's that button right there. That one. Okay.
So this right here, this is my
Okay.
house. Right
And is that where the accident took place?
here. Yes. Well, on the side, on the curb.
Okay, so the accident, your car was parked in the street?
It was parked on the curb. Yeah, on the street. Yes.
Okay, closest to your house.
Yes.
Now, you indicated that the female occupant, that she was the driver of the vehicle,
Yes.
right? You indicated that she walked away down the alley. Tell us where she walked to.
The first time when I saw it, before I had came outside, she walked up to Warren, like up towards this way. And then by the time I had got my shoes on and everything, she was walking through, there's a church here on the corner, and there's a little alley here by the church, so she was walking through here.
Okay. Can you actually get through the alley out to the other street if you go down that alley by the church?
That I don't know, I don't think so, but she eventually came back across the street and came, and that's when I was able to talk with her.
Okay, I have that. Thank you. Exhibit number 4, proposed exhibit number 4. Now, does this, what is that, first of all? Is it a map?
Yes.
And is that an aerial shot of Bramall Street and Warren in the general area from which you reside?
Yes.
Okay, move for the admission of people's exhibit number 4.
No objection, Your Honor. So moved.
We have 4, please. Now, showing you Bramall and Majestic. Now, that photograph that we just had, I believe that was people's exhibit 5, you indicated that you live somewhere around this area here. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So this shows West Warren and are associated with that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated that after this lone occupant, driver of the vehicle, walked away, you said she was holding her head. Is that right?
Yes.
Could you show us or show the court how she was holding her head?
She was holding her head like this.
Okay, for the record, you've got both of your hands up alongside of your temples.
Yes.
Okay. And did she appear to you to be injured at that point?
Yes. I mean, I don't know exactly because at that point she was walking away holding
The fire
it. Yes.
Okay. What happens next?
When she came back the second time after she had walked away, once we were outside, I had stood there outside talking to my neighbor, and once she came back, that's when I had the opportunity to talk to her.
How long was she gone for during that time period?
Probably about 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes.
And during that time, is that when she's walking down by the church?
Yes. She
Okay.
came back from walking behind the church in the little alley by the church.
When you had the opportunity to speak with her, where are you at this point?
Yes.
And what is she doing when she comes back?
At that point, I asked her, was she okay? And she said yes. She got in the car and she tried to, start the ignition up, and I explained to her, I said, honey, your car is damaged. You're not going to be able to start the car. So, I asked her where her cell phone, and I asked again, is she okay? And I said, well, where's your cell phone? Because I want to try to call somebody that you know to let them know that, you've been in an accident or something. And she proceeded to look for her phone, but she couldn't find the phone.
When she looked for her phone, was she
her pockets or something. I can't remember exactly what she had on, but she was patting like her pockets.
But she wasn't looking in a purse or the car or
No,
something like that?
no.
All right. And did you ever see her with a cell phone?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Does she indicate to you where she wants to go?
She did. She just kept saying she wanted to go home. And I said, I wanted to try to get her home, you know, safely. And then at that point, I saw blood on her hand. So then at that point, I said, you know, you are hurt. So let me try to call. I asked her, did she know the phone number of anyone that I could call so that I could let them know that she had been in an accident, so that someone would know where she was, because I know at that point that no one knew she had been in an accident or even where she was. So I said, I saw blood on her hand. I said, you're hurt. Let me call the ambulance. I want you to sit down and let me call the ambulance. And she said, sit down where? I said, well, sit down here inside of the car.
And did she actually sit down inside the car?
She did.
Okay. Was she sitting in the driver's seat, passenger seat, front seat, back seat?
The driver's seat.
Okay. At that point, were you able to make any observations of the inside of that vehicle?
I didn't know. At that point, I was just concerned about her being...
The airbag deployed?
Yes, it was. That I did notice with the smell along with it.
Okay, so the airbag deploying had some kind of odor associated
Yes.
with it? Was it a good odor or a bad odor?
A bad odor.
Okay. And did you in fact call 911 a second time?
I did.
And do you recall what you said to 911 the second time?
I needed an ambulance to come because I didn't notice, I didn't know how hurt she was. So I wanted, you know, her to be examined, for someone to come, because I didn't want to be too intrusive on, you know, trying to find out how.
At this point, Judge, I'd move for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit Number 7, the second 911 call by Beasley.
No objection, Your Honor.
So moved.
Saturday, 11/2/2013 at 1:20 a.m.
Detroit emergency.
Okay, what's this for the transfer?
911, where's the problem? Yes, I think I just spoke with you about the accident out here. Where? On 7233 Brown. 7223, hold on a moment. No, 7233 Brown. Okay, what's going on? Yeah, the young lady's out here bleeding. Okay, one moment. Okay, so is this the lady that's led free? Yeah, but she's back and she's out here bleeding. She's dropped. So where's she bleeding from? Her arm. I believe it is. Okay. Let me request EMS. Are you there? No. How old does she appear to be? In her 20s or something, probably 21 or something. All right, I'm going to request the EMS there. What you can do is take a dry clean cloth, apply direct continuous pressure to where she's bleeding from. Okay? Okay. And she is conscious and alert, correct? Somewhat, yeah. When I say alert, she's awake. Alert means like she's coherent. She knows where she is. Does she doesn't know where she is. No. You said she's been drinking? Yes. All right. I will request the EMS, okay? The car is stuck in my driveway. Okay, the police are requested there, and I'll make that determination when they get there. I can't tell you what they're going to do once they get there. Okay. All right.
Do you recognize your voice on the 911 call?
Yes.
Is that when you called the second time?
Yes.
And you indicated that you called because there was, you requesting an ambulance at that point?
Yes.
All right. When you make that second call, do you then go back outside?
Yes.
And is the lone female driver still outside?
No, at that point, she began, well, she was, and then she just kept saying the ambulance was coming to, you know, check her out, but she said no. I said no, I just need to go home.
And when you had contact with her, did she appear to be injured?
Yes.
Did she appear to be confused?
Yes.
And she appeared to you to be intoxicated?
Yes, she did.
What caused you to believe that she was injured, confused, and intoxicated? And what about her demeanor?
She just was, it was kind of like a confused state of mind. My assumption based on running into the parked car, and just the confused state of not knowing where she was, or you know, not being able to give me a phone number or anything to help me out to get her, you know, help. But
Did she ever give you a phone number for home?
no, that's what I was trying to get.
Did she ever fight with you?
No,
Did she ever become belligerent?
not at
Did she
all.
ever become testy or combative in any way?
No.
Did you have damage to your vehicle?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibits 8, 9, and 10.
No objections to 8, 9, or 10, Your Honor.
So I mean,
Starting with people's exhibit number 8. Can you tell me what that is?
A picture of her car in the driveway.
Okay, is that the driveway at your house?
Yes.
Okay. And showing you people's exhibit number 9. What is that? The damage that was caused as it related to this evening?
Yes.
Okay, and that would be the front passenger side primarily?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was damage to your car?
No, this is damage to her car.
Her car.
I'm going to direct your attention to this up here. Can you tell us what that is up there? Were you able to see that up there?
That light?
This area right here, it looks like it's on the windshield. Do you recall seeing that the night of the accident?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you can't tell us what that is.
I can't.
Okay, showing you people's exhibit number 10. Now that.
Yes.
And what is that?
This is my husband's car. The damage.
And showing this area here, is that the curb?
Yes.
So the vehicle was pushed up onto the, almost looks like into the grassy area?
Yes.
Okay, and I presume that that's not how you parked the car that evening?
No.
The car would have been parked back in this general area?
Yes.
Okay, so when the accident with the white vehicle pushed the vehicle up here onto the grass?
Yes.
Thank you. Did the what time the police got there?
I don't.
Do you know how long after this lone female occupant of the vehicle left that the police actually got there?
From the time I called until the time that they arrived, I believe it took about 30 minutes. Maybe approximately 30 minutes.
And that was
Excuse me, Your Honor. Could we have clarification about which call she
I'm just
referred
getting
to?
ready to ask.
Sorry, thank you.
that would have been 30 minutes after the second call or after the first call? You made the first call at 12:55, and then you called for the ambulance at 1:20. Made the location.
They did.
All right. And did you speak to the ambulance?
I did.
Did you advise them of anything?
I did.
What did
I
you tell
asked them to go and circle the block and look for her because she had left walking. I was worried about her. I didn't know where she was. I did everything but, you know, restrain her from leaving. But I did want them to look for her because I knew that she was hurt and I didn't want her out there by herself walking at that time of night.
At that particular time, do you recall if it was raining out?
It was not raining.
Did the police come?
Police came first.
And then the ambulance came?
Yes.
And was that white vehicle towed from the scene?
Yes, it was.
And was your vehicle towed as well?
Yes. No, my vehicle was not towed that night.
Okay, it stayed there?
Yes.
And at some point later, did you have it?
That morning I had my vehicle towed.
Further?
Good morning, Ms. Beasley.
Good morning.
My name is Matt Carpenter. I represent Mr. Wafer. This isn't about him. This is just about the car accident that you were witness to. How soon did you look out the window after the crash?
I went directly for the phone first. So right after I got the phone, I went to let 911 know what I saw.
Do you have any idea how long this was? 30 seconds, a minute, until you found the phone?
30 seconds maybe.
Okay. You said that you didn't see any other occupants of the car, right?
I did not.
Okay. You said that when Miss McBride, or the young lady, left, you didn't know her name, left the first time, she was holding her head. Would you show the court how she was holding her head?
She was doing it.
Both hands?
Both hands.
On side of her head?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. Do you remember how she was walking? If she was walking straight up, or was she swaying or staggering?
She staggered a bit.
Mm-hmm. Could you show us, would the court mind if she showed us how much she was? Would you come down here and just show the court how much she was staggering, please? Or just try
Doing this.
side to side?
Yeah.
And she wasn't walking straight, she was unsteady in her feet?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth if that's what
No,
you're...
I mean, she was like, it was like she was discombobulated, walking with her hands on her head.
Okay. Thank you very much. Did you say in your direct examination with Ms. Clark that you were frightened to go outside at first, or a little afraid to go out that time of night first?
I didn't say I was frightened. I just said I did not, I didn't assess the situation.
Okay.
So before I did anything, I immediately grabbed the phone and called 911, and I wanted to report what I saw outside.
Do you think this young lady understood that you were trying to help her?
Objection of your calls for speculation. How can she know whether or not what's in the mind of Ms. McBride?
Well, let me rephrase the question. Do you think she understood your offer to call her home or friends? Did she acknowledge that in any way that you, so that she understood your offer to help her by calling her house or friends?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think I asked her for a phone number. I said, what's the phone number? Phone number I can call. Let's look for a phone. Let's call someone. And she just said she didn't know. I have to go home. She wanted to go home.
And at any time did you ask her to stay there until the ambulance came?
When I went in to call the ambulance, because I had to go inside to call the ambulance, I told her to have a seat because I didn't want her to fall or anything. I said, just sit down right quick while I go and get the phone. And at that time, when I came back out, she was walking away again.
And that was the second time she walked away?
Yes. No, that was the third time, because the first time she walked up to Warren. The second time she walked across the street, and then this time she was walking away.
Each time was she walking the same disoriented way?
Yeah, I didn't see her actually physically walk away when I was on the phone on the ambulance.
Uh-huh.
So at that point, I didn't see her walk away anymore. But when she came walking from the church, she seems to be walking regular.
One second. Thank you very much. I have no questions. Other questions?
When you spoke to her, did she appear to be calm?
Yes. A little scared, maybe. And like I said, just
You called 911 before you opened the door?
yes,
And then after you called 911, that's when you opened up the door and you went outside?
yes. I was on the phone with 911 and I watched out the window, and the first call was done all from inside of my home. I hadn't even opened up the door or anything. I just immediately, when I heard the noise, I just got the phone and called 911. I
Okay, so you
didn't,
hear a loud noise outside your home
yes,
and you called 911?
yes,
Yes. And then you put your shoes on and you go outside?
yes,
And at that and at the time, you did not know who this person was, is that
No.
right? Have you since learned who this person was?
yes,
Okay. Have you seen news media coverage of this case?
yes,
And is that how you know who this person was?
yes,
And are you sure that the person that you had contact with that night was Renisha McBride?
yes,
Based on what?
based on the photographs, and that's basically it.
Okay. And that's the person that you had the contact with?
Yes, and when the detectives came to verify, the detective came and told me that in fact was Renisha McBride that was in the accident.
Okay.
Just one quick question, Ms. Beasley. You said that when you looked out, before you went out, you were assessing the situation after you got your phone?
Yes,
Okay. And what were you trying to determine?
just what had happened, who was involved, if it was, how many people was involved, and things like that. Because I just didn't want to open up the door just immediately and just go right outside without